Episode 2. A Frosty Reception. Planet Azuria.
I already knew what it was when I got here. But that didn't mean it wasn't still annoying. Before I'd left, I took the book with me, adorned my power armor, projectile-resistant mask, and the robe of the Magus Hunter Corps. I took Hunter and boarded my ship for a 4-hour flight down south, making it to the country of Bastion. It took me another 30 minutes to get to Slade City proper and land. I'd found a decent place to stay for the night, but when I woke up in the morning to start poking around the city, it was just as I thought. No one wanted to talk to me. Of course, it didn't help that I was in a set of purple power armor, a gold mask, and black robes with an intimidating cowl. No doubt I came across as the magic boogeyman, but hell, I still had a job to do, and I was going to see this through. I'd spent the better part of a day asking different people on the streets if there were any strange sightings, but surprise, surprise, no one saw anything. Finally, after searching in the 4th District, I found an officer, who finally gave me a little bit of her time. Well, it helps that she happened to be pinned down by a couple of thugs, and I'd come to her aid. You see, I happened to be walking down a particularly seedy part of the 4th District when I heard gunfire coming from a particularly grungy alley. Normally, it's against my principles to head towards gunfire, but considering I needed information, then perhaps this was my chance. There was a single dumpster and 3 guys were laughing while standing in the open, shooting a few low-caliber guns at an officer who was standing against a brick wall. There was blood dripping from her right hand, and her gun was on the cracked concrete.
"Dance for us, cop. Maybe we'll let you live."
One joked, while another took a shot after a swig of what I could only guess was a foul-smelling beer.
"You've got no gun, you've got no friends, all you got is us, baby."
They all laughed, and I was officially over it. Bolt shot! I held up Hunter as my revolver charged with electric energy. I took aim and fired, but it wasn't a bullet that left the gun, rather a bolt of lightning that struck the first man, causing him to scream spasm and fall to the ground. The other 3 squealed in surprise.
"A mage, what are they doing in a..."
A second one began, but before he could finish, I shot a second round that caught him in the chest. Like the first, he came crashing to the ground, and it seemed the others were spurred to act as a result. They began firing, but each shot bounced off my armor like they were throwing stones at me. I pulled my best interpretation of a maniacal villain, giving them my best evil laugh. Fools, now I will experiment on your rotted corpses. They screamed, but it wasn't long before I shot the other 2 and disabled them before they could attract any other attention. The cop ran, dived, and picked up her gun to aim it at me. Really? I just saved her and she aimed a pistol at me. Well, I guess I did act like a crazy cultist back there. So I tried to be reasonable and put my gun away and held my hands up. Sorry, it was just an act. I was having a little fun at their expense. She kept the gun raised, despite the fact that she knew it wouldn't even damage my armor. I rolled my eyes. Look,
Sarisa.
Sarisa, you've got 4 disabled thugs. You're still alive, and I put my gun away, so I can't be that bad.
I'm sorry. I just got shot. A bunch of weirdos cornered me. And now a mage comes out shouting about how he's going to experiment on their corpses.
She began, and I thought that maybe poking fun at those thugs was a bad idea. She reached for a few zip ties in her pack and bound the 4. I kept my distance, though she was struggling to get them on with one hand. As she came to the 3rd thug, she looked up.
That wasn't funny, by the way.
I thought it was.
It's not, especially when the 3rd District has gone through hell over the past few days.
She moved on to the final thug and wrapped him up before returning her attention to me.
Weird stuff like zombie attacks, people being bitten and the like.
Finally, I was getting somewhere, as this was the first lead I had. These zombie attacks, was there anything off about them?
You mean aside from them being dead?
Well, yeah, did they move as units? Act in a manner that might be non-typical?
Look, man. Where I'm from, the dead stay dead. I doubt the officers had time to analyze them for the subtleties you're asking about.
She finished. Before she could start hauling them back to her car, I asked, "One more thing. Would you happen to know if there were other magic users involved?
Well, no. But 3rd District has its own local vigilante, if that's what you want. I'm not sure whether they can use magic or not, but he might have been the reason that the officers escaped.
I thanked her and helped her get the 4 criminals into the back of her squad hover car. She offered to give me a ride to the 3rd Precinct where I hoped to find answers. As I got out, I wished her farewell and headed towards the squat brick building where 2 Travaxi guards stood. Travaxi were natives of Azuria just like humans, Sansarians, Nymians, and Tarek, but they were a bit hardier than the rest of us. They were humanoid-shaped gems with glowing eyes of different colors. The 2 in front of me happened to be emerald-colored. Each stood ready to gun me down with shotguns. I nodded at them as I tried to walk into the station, but the one on the left stopped me. "What's your business, Mage?" he said in a commanding voice. I backed up a little. I'm here to look into some strange...
We don't need your assistance. Now head back to your academy and stay there.
Well, as expected as that response was, I couldn't turn back. "Look, my man, I need to speak with your chief because there may be several magic users involved and I'm not sure."
You aren't sure? You mages never are. Now get lost before I throw you into the streets.
I looked back, and though the streets were crowded, no one particularly paid us any mind. This was not the sort of treatment that the station wanted on its record, but who would believe a gutless mage over a veteran officer? I had to get in, and this guy wasn't going to stop me. "Look, I'm after this magic user because..."
I don't care!
I was starting to get pissed. Now I wasn't stupid enough to pull Hunter out, but instead lowered my shoulder and charged towards the door. It was stupid. I wasn't going to get far, but... hell, I had to try something. Luckily, I took the Travaxi by surprise and burst through the doors. To be fair, it was a nice office. The desk seemed nice and orderly, but I couldn't quite get past all the officers with drawn pistols and laser pistols aimed my way. I quickly held my hands up to thwart any ideas of shooting me, but I got the feeling I was pushing it. Maybe just a little. A very serious-looking woman with a scar on her right eye walked forward.
You've got about 10 seconds to tell me what you're here for.
"I was here looking for 2 individuals, a vigilante and a necromancer, but your men here wouldn't let me enter peacefully." She turned to the 2 officers and gave them a stern look. I'm glad they couldn't see my face because I was smiling at their misfortune. Couldn't be me. "Look, I'm not trying to get in the way or start any trouble, but..." The woman held up her hand to stop me.
Listen, I know you mean well, but we don't really trust mages. Hell, half the reason we're in this mess is because of strange magic.
I sighed, knowing I wasn't going to get much more in the way of information here. What I didn't know is that there was another officer there who was paying attention to our conversation.
While I'm sorry that my boys caused you trouble, I can't exactly put you on the case with my officers. Your presence here will only cause a greater distraction from the massive work we already have. Boys, if you'll escort him out.
Before the Travaxi officers could take me out, a blue-scaled Tarek walked towards us.
"Hey boss, I'll take care of our mage friend here. I'll even take him far away from the station."
This seemed to agree with the sergeant, so the officer took me out to his patrol car. I got in and he started the hover car. Then we set off into the mean streets of Slade City. The city was a lot larger than I remembered it being. Repulsor roads arced throughout the city as neon lights and signs tried to grab our attention. Traffic was heavy, but this didn't seem to bother the officer at all. After waiting for a few minutes till we came to an overcrowded part of the city, the officer introduced himself.
"I'm Shos Voza. You'll have to excuse my colleagues, but we really have had our hands full."
"I'm Jaden Blackthorn, and to be quite frank, I kind of expected that. Why don't you tell me about this problem you all have?" I asked, but the officer held up a finger.
"Look, I couldn't ask for your help with this case without at least letting me treat you to some food at a nice cafe here in town."
Well, this was a shock. An officer in Slade City that wasn't a jerk. We came around to a parking lot, then landed and headed into the bottom floor of a large skyscraper that served as the headquarters for the Magia Technica, one of the largest magical tech companies in the country. At the bottom, however, was a cafe with a classic wood finish and a few baristas running about in aprons. I sat down with Shows, and the two of us pulled up a hollow menu and ordered drinks, and I ordered a blueberry muffin. We sat and ate for a few moments before I finally asked, "So, about this necromancer?" He sighed.
We don't know much. He's worked in the shadows for so long, with the occasional zombie attack here and there, but nothing to catch him though. I've been working with a vigilante who calls himself the Shadow. He's a mage just like you, though a bit less refined, since he doesn't have the same experience.
Then he may need help to bring down the necromancer. Is there any way we can get in contact with Shadow?
Of course, he's actually a friend of mine, but I'm sure if the rest of the force found out I was working with a vigilante, then I'd lose my job,
he responded. I wanted to assure him that since he was working with a registered mage, he wouldn't lose his job, but seeing how quickly they wanted me out, I'm sure that wouldn't be true either. Shows gave me a pointed look.
I need 2 things from you if we're to meet Shadow.
Name them.
The first, obviously, is that you keep my involvement with the vigilante a secret. The second is that you treat Shadow well. He's not a bad guy, and he tries to do good with the magic that he was given. I know you're a mage hunter, so I think it goes without saying that the Academy wants him put away.
I stopped and thought about what he was saying for a minute. Most mage hunters were killers, but that was not all there was to our job. We were always meant to bring in mages alive, to help them get their powers under control, so that they could contribute to society. I leaned back after eating a bite of my muffin before addressing his concern. Look, I'm actually here to find a guy named Zarek Shin, a mage that specializes in the School of the Unseen. This seemed to take the cop aback, so the Shadow and Zarek might be one and the same. A colleague of mine, Dr. Isabella Silva, wanted me to bring him to Arxor Academy so that we could teach him there. This necromancer and vigilante kind of gave me the first leads to this guy's whereabouts.
So you're a friend of Dr. Silva?
He laughed.
Man, I wish you'd opened with that.
This girl got around, didn't she? I guess mages with the ability to heal were always in high demand, and Izzy was one of the best. Shows seemed to relax a bit more.
Listen, I'm supposed to meet with the Shadow in a few hours. How about I drop you off wherever you're staying so you can make preparations, and I'll do the same. I'll pick you up so we can go give him some backup.
I'd like that. We shook hands, then got up to leave the cafe. He drove me to the hotel I was staying, where I began to make preparations for the long night ahead of us.